So in this video, we're going to talk about branches and forks and using our source control in a more effective way. So this course, for those of you who are getting started here, it assumes that you've maybe worked with GitHub or another source control before. So maybe you've cloned a repo or you've created one from scratch, you've made a change, you've pushed to GitHub, and you've probably done all of that directly on the main branch. Now, if you are fortunate enough to have worked with other people, maybe in a group or team setting, you've seen this in practice. But if not, we're going to really elaborate on how teams work together and use source control without stepping all over each other. Because single people just having access to their repo, pushing things, making changes, works fine when you're alone, but then it breaks down the moment multiple people are trying to touch the same code base. So in this video, we're going to talk about the tools that make team development possible, which is branches and forks. So specifically, we're going to talk about what a branch is, why developers use them, the idea of feature branching, which is the workflow that you'll most likely be using wherever you are. There are different patterns for branching, but I'm going to specifically talk about feature branching, what a fork is, and how it differs from a clone or a branch, and then when to use a branch versus a fork, and how these tools can combine together to make team projects really work. So we'll start with, what is a branch? Well, a branch is a parallel version of your code. You can make changes on it without affecting what is in main until you're ready to merge. So there's an analogy that I always like to think of. We think of main as the official version of a document the whole team relies on. The branch is your personal working copy where you can make edits, try things, mess things up, and only update the official version once you think everything is ready and it looks good. So this diagram here of our main branch as a straight line of commits with a feature branch splitting off, getting its own commits, and then merging back in where it needs to. So your main, that's your primary branch. It should always be in the working state. And in fact, as we progress into our ideas of like continuous delivery, your product is going to be working off of the main branch. So if you push something to main and it breaks your application, then your live application is going to go down. So we protect the main branch to make sure we're not merging things in that aren't ready. Feature branches are really short-lived. We create one for a specific task or when we're working on a piece of a feature. We finish it, we merge it, we delete it. And we really want branch names to be descriptive. So things like add -search -feature. When you name branches, things like branch 1 or test, it makes it really difficult if you haven't deleted it yet to go back to a branch and know that that's what you're working on. So let's look at the full kind of feature branching workflow so that we really get an understanding of this. The full loop looks like this. We start from an up-to-date main. We create our feature branch. You make your changes, commit them to the branch, push the branch to GitHub, then go and open a pull request from your main to merge the changes that you have in your branch. You get it reviewed under whatever rules the repo that you're working in requires. And if it meets all of the requirements, it passes all the rules, you get it merged. Then you can delete the branch and pull the updated main. So really why this matters. We want multiple people to be able to work on different features simultaneously without stepping on each other. And if your feature breaks something, then that's isolated. The main is going to stay clean and working. That pull request step is where code review happens. So every change should get a second pair of eyes before it reaches the main. And one of the biggest kind of common mistakes I see in new developers is forgetting to pull the latest main once your feature branch has been merged before you move on to creating your next new branch. Students who skip this end up with a branch based on stale code that doesn't include their previous changes, and then it creates merge conflicts later. Here are some of the common terminal commands that you will most likely use. So to create and switch to a new branch, we can git checkout -b for branch, and then what do we want to call it? Or you can break this out into two separate steps. You can use git branch, and then you can use git checkout, but git checkout -b does both of these in one step. If you want to see what branch you're on, maybe you've been moving around between branches and you want to verify where you are, you can use git branch. Or when you're ready to push the branch to GitHub in preparation for that pull request step, git push origin, and then the name of your branch. So next we're going to talk about what is a fork, because I think people sometimes use these terms interchangeably, but they are in fact different. So the core idea, a fork is a full copy of someone else's repository under your own GitHub account. So unlike a branch, which lives inside of the same repo, a fork is a separate repo that has its own URL, its own settings, and it belongs to you. So maybe sometimes we think about how do we decide? So we have to ask ourselves some questions. So are we working on our own project, or you're on the team and you have write access to the repo already? Maybe you're on the team and it's your own project. You're the owner. That's probably a good situation for a branch. But if you are contributing to someone else's repo, maybe in an open source way where you are contributing to a code base, but you're not part of the organization, or you are just working on an open source type project, or you're working in a class situation and you have a class team and a project repo, maybe your instructor has set that up for you, then that's a good fork scenario. So we want to contribute, but we don't have full write access, and you want to be able to have your pull requests reviewed. So just to recap, our feature branch workflow, what this needs to look like. We would find the repo that we want to work with, whether it's in an organization, a class team, an open source type thing. We would fork the repo, and that would create your own copy at github.com/your username/repo name. Then you could clone the fork locally, so now you have those files on your computer. Then you can create the feature branch on your fork, make your changes, publish and push your changes, and then open a pull request from your fork's branch back to your original repo, wherever the org or the team or whatever that is, the main. And so you can kind of walk it forward to create it, and then you walk it backwards as you do your pull request. And remember, we always commit and push to the fork, never directly to that team repo, the org repo. And then that's how you would be able to create a pull request so your work can get reviewed and merged. And as we talk about our QA people and the organizational structure that we have been talking about inside of large software development teams, this is the workflow that most developers work under, so that the QA people are the ones doing the reviews of those pull requests and then submitting back comments or doing the merging. So to wrap up, some key takeaways, right? Branches are going to let us work on features in isolation, where forks let us contribute to repos we don't own. As you work on your skills in DevOps and are trying to learn more about how these different features of source control work, I recommend that you get some practice, right? Find a repo, fork, create branches, submit pull requests. And so we'll continue to talk more about this as we go along, and let me know if you have any questions.